Okay, so we're diving into the world of SUI today. Everyone's talking about blockchain, but
It's everywhere you look these days.
it really is. But this isn't just another Bitcoin story. We're going deep,
Yeah.
looking at white papers and all sorts of technical stuff. But trust me, we'll make it exciting.
That's right. It can seem pretty dense, all that technical jargon, but think of it this way. What if there was a way to make the internet faster, cheaper, more secure? That's what SUI is all about.
Okay, now that's what I'm talking about. A faster internet, sign me up. But how does SUI actually make that happen?
Well, it all starts with how they've designed the platform, this SUI smart contracts platform white paper you shared. They talk a lot about speed and scalability
Yeah, it really jumps out at you when you start going through it. They emphasize that a lot.
and for good reason.
Mm-hmm.
Most blockchains out there, they process information like a single file line at, say, the bank.
Yeah.
One transaction at a time. So he's like, what if we had a multi-lane highway instead?
Okay, I like where this is going. A blockchain superhighway.
Exactly. They call it causal ordering, and it's a game changer.
So instead of all those transactions stuck in traffic jams, they're zooming along, no problem. I like it. But I'm still trying to wrap my head around it. How does this causal ordering thing actually work in practice?
Okay, picture this. You're a chef in a busy restaurant, right? With those old school blockchains, you'd have to wait for one order to be completely finished before starting the next, even if they're totally unrelated.
So if someone orders a salad and then another person orders a steak, you're saying, I gotta wait to start the steak until that salad is prepped, made, and out the door, even though they're totally different.
Exactly. But SUI is like having a whole team of chefs working in parallel. One chef can handle the salad orders, another's on steak duty, and so on. Everything moves faster because you're not bottlenecked by that single file line.
So it's all about multitasking, getting things done at the same time. That makes a lot of sense. Okay, so we've got our blockchain superhighway, chefs working in parallel. What else makes SUI unique? We got to talk about the SUI token. It's the fuel for this whole system, right?
Right, but it's more than just fuel. It's also used for things like staking, which helps keep everything secure. And this is where things get even more interesting, I think, this storage fund.
The storage fund. Okay, I'm intrigued. Storing all this data on the blockchain, that can't be cheap, can it?
You're absolutely right. It's something most people don't think about, but storing data, especially on a fast and efficient blockchain like SUI, it takes up space, and space costs money.
So usually with blockchains, users are paying for the processing power, right, like the actual transactions, but not necessarily for the long-term storage of that data.
Exactly. So who foots the bill for making sure all that data is kept safe and sound long term? That's where SUI's storage fund comes in.
Okay, so walk me through this. How does the storage fund work exactly? It sounds like this could be a game changer.
Imagine it like this.
Yeah.
You're renting an apartment for your data on the blockchain. You pay some rent up front.
So that's like what? A security deposit?
Yeah, you could think of it that way. But here's the really cool part. With SUI, if you decide to move out, meaning you delete the data you're storing, you get a rebate.
Wait, hold on, a rebate. So you're telling me I can get my security deposit back on my data? That's amazing.
It's a built-in incentive to keep things tidy and only store what you really need on the blockchain.
It's like a built-in spring cleaning for the digital world. Love it. Okay, we've covered a lot of ground already. Blockchain highways, chef-powered transactions, data rent with a rebate. SUI is definitely thinking differently. So we've established that SUI is really shaking things up in the blockchain world, doing things differently. One thing that always gets me about this whole world is gas. I mean, how does SUI handle that? It always seems so complicated.
Yeah, it definitely can be, especially with some blockchains out there. But with SUI, it's not a case of one size fits all. They've got this really interesting system that keeps things running smoothly. A lot of moving parts, but they all work together.
Okay, now you've got me curious. Break it down for me. What makes SUI's gas mechanism so different?
It's kind of like a three-pronged approach. They've got this gas price survey,
Right.
a tallying rule, and then an incentive-based reward system.
Okay, whoa, slow down there. That's a lot to unpack. Let's start with this gas price survey. What is that all about?
Okay, so imagine this. At the start of each epoch, which is just a fancy way of saying a set period of time on the SUI blockchain, all the validators, they get together kind of like a pre-game huddle.
So it's like a strategic meeting before things kick off. I like it.
Exactly. And during this huddle, each validator submits their own gas price proposal for that epoch.
So they're each saying, hey, this is how much I want to charge to process your transactions.
Precisely. Now, SUI takes all those proposals and crunches the numbers using a specific formula. This gives them what they call the reference gas price for that epoch.
So the reference gas price is like the average or the going rate.
Exactly. It gives everyone a baseline. But
Right.
now you might be thinking, well, what's stopping these validators from colluding?
Well,
All getting together and jacking up the price.
yeah, that would be a problem.
Exactly. And that's where SUI's tallying rule comes in. This is all about accountability. See, at the end of each epoch, all the validators, they grade each other's homework.
Wait a minute, they grade each other, like back in school.
You got it. They look at how well each validator stuck to their proposed gas prices.
Yeah.
Did they actually process transactions at that rate? Or did they maybe prioritize those with higher gas fees attached? It all gets factored in.
So it's like a performance review, but for blockchain validators. That's brilliant.
And just like in a performance review, there are consequences for slacking off. This is where those incentivized rewards come in.
Let me guess. The validators who play fair, they get a bonus.
Exactly. They get a little something extra added to their staking rewards. And for those who try to game the system, well, their rewards get slashed.
It's like a built-in system of checks and balances. I like it, so it keeps the gas prices fair.
That's the idea.
Yeah.
It's designed to make sure the gas prices stay relatively stable and predictable, which, let's be honest, that's a big deal in the blockchain world.
That is a big deal. Volatility can be scary. Okay, so we've covered this gas price survey, validators grading each other, but you mentioned SUI splits its gas price into two parts, a fixed component and a tip.
You're on top of it. It's true. The fixed component, that's that reference gas price we were talking about, the one the validators all agreed on. The tip, on the other hand, that's totally up to the user.
Oh, interesting. So if I'm, say, in a hurry, I can add a little something extra to speed up my transaction.
Think of it like a little rush order fee. But here's where it gets really interesting. You can also choose to leave a negative tip.
Wait, you can leave a negative tip? How does that work?
As long as that total gas price, even with a negative tip, as long as it's above a certain minimum, you're good to go. It's basically a way of saying, hey, I'm not in a rush. Take your time with this transaction.
That's really cool. It gives users a lot of control. Okay, so we've covered the computation gas prices, but what about data storage? Does that work the same way?
That's a great question. Storage gas pricing works a bit differently. Remember we were talking about the storage fund earlier?
Suez Data Sanctuary. Yeah, of course.
Well, the storage gas price is directly tied to the cost of maintaining that sanctuary. And unlike the computation gas, which can fluctuate depending on all sorts of things, that storage gas, it's adjusted a lot less frequently.
So less volatility, which makes sense for long-term storage.
Exactly. It's all about making sure SUI remains sustainable, that it doesn't get bogged down by data with no way to pay for it all.
SUI seems to have really thought this through. They're not messing around with their economics.
It's refreshing, isn't it? They're playing the long game, which is great to see. And speaking of the long game, we've got to talk about SUI deflation and the role of the storage fund in all of this.
Ooh, yeah. That is interesting. We'll have to save that for next time, though. Okay, so we've talked about SUI's unique approach to gas prices, that storage fund, all that good stuff. But what does this all mean for the SUI token itself? That's what we really care about, right? The future of this whole ecosystem.
Absolutely. And this is where SUI gets really interesting. They've actually designed it to be deflationary.
Deflationary. But we were talking earlier about how they don't burn tokens. So how does that work?
Yeah, so think of it like this. Imagine there's this limited edition comic book, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there are only a certain number in existence.
Okay, I'm with you. Limited edition, only so many to go around.
Right. So as more people want that comic book, what happens to the price?
It goes up. Supply and demand.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Classic economics. And it's the same principle with SUI. They've got a fixed supply of SUI tokens, 10 billion to be exact. So as more and more people start using SUI, the demand for those tokens goes up, which means...
The price goes up too.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. But where does the storage fund fit into all of this? We talked about how it makes data storage more sustainable, but what about its impact on the actual SUI token?
So it actually impacts it in a couple of really interesting ways. First off, any SUI that's used to initially fund that storage mechanism, well, it's basically taken out of circulation.
Okay, so it's like locking those tokens away in a vault somewhere.
Exactly, which means the circulating supply is smaller, making the remaining SUI potentially more valuable.
Makes sense. But you said there was another way the storage fund contributes to deflation, right?
Right. Remember those rebates users get if they delete their data? Well, those rebates are calculated based on the original SUI amount that they paid, not the current SUI price.
Hold on a second. So if the value of SUI has gone up since I stored my data, The SUI rebate I get back is worth less than what I originally paid.
Exactly.
Wow, so I'm actually losing money by deleting my data.
Not exactly losing money, but yes, the SUI you get back as a rebate might be worth less than what you initially paid if the price of SUI has gone up.
Okay, I see what you mean. Interesting.
And that leftover SUI, it stays right there in the storage fund.
So it's like this slow and steady drip of deflation, all thanks to this storage system. It's kind of brilliant when you think about it. SUI has found this really elegant balance between giving users incentives and also creating this deflationary mechanism.
Yeah, it's pretty clever. And they've also taken steps to make sure that the storage fund doesn't get too big. It's all been very carefully considered.
So it's not just about building a blockchain, it's about building a whole sustainable ecosystem. They're in it for the long haul, aren't they?
Absolutely. Sue's challenging all of our assumptions about what blockchain can be, not just the tech, but also the economics of it all. It's exciting to see.
It really is. It's been amazing taking this deep dive into SUI with you, from parallel processing to that innovative storage fund. It's clear they're doing things differently.
And I think we've only scratched the surface here. It's going to be fascinating to see what developers do with SUI, what they build on top of it all. The potential here is just massive.
It really is. And for you, our listener, we encourage you to check out those white papers we mentioned. Do your own research, form your own conclusions. SUI is doing some amazing things. And as you learn more, we have one last question for you to ponder. What if SUI isn't just changing technology, but actually building a better future for all of us? A future where the digital world is more efficient, more equitable, more user-friendly. Think about it.